Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. We are joined by our friend, a very close friend. He's in New Jersey, Joe Grabas, though. He's helping people worldwide with his company and businesses as a genealogist. And again, the name of the company, the Grabas Institute for Continuing Education, also an expert in the title industry. We welcome him back to the show. How are you?
All right. I'm very well this morning. How about you?
I'm doing great. Happy for a Monday, which is a rarity just because the sun's out, right? You
That's
feeling
right.
that little kick of spring in the air yesterday? Makes you feel good, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, we got hit with a couple of hurricanes here in New Jersey.
What?
So, yes. I mean, not hurricanes, tornadoes. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Tornadoes. I'm sorry. I got my weather
I know
back.
Tennessee did. I didn't hear Jersey on the shore
Yeah.
or where in particular.
Yeah, it's actually right through the middle of the state, very near where I live in Freehold.
Oh my goodness. Everyone's okay. Was there any major damage? This is a
No
busy time for you.
people harmed. Yeah, no people harmed, but there was definitely property damage.
Wow.
Ripped people's roofs off and things like that. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Crazy.
Thank you for sharing. Unfortunately, I hope everyone's okay out there. Brings us to a good topic. We're going to talking about title fraud today, title theft, and clearly he's an expert if you need some help with this situation. But please tell us a little bit about yourself before we begin today's conversation.
Sure. Well, my name is Joe Grabas. I've been in the title business for 45 years, and because of that, today I'm known as a forensic title expert. I get called in on a variety of different matters to do research, give reports, give testimony, do genealogical work, try to find missing heirs, things of that nature. That's basically what I do most of the time, that and teach.
Perfect. And for today, just remind us how we can reach out to you.
Sure, you can find us at gicenj.com, or forensictitleexpert.com.
All right, perfect. So we're going to talk today on the rising incidence of home title fraud. And advancements in technology, you say, have opened the land title recording system into the tamperings of criminal enterprises everywhere and can really present a significant loss to homeowners. So excited to talk about this and to find out more about this uncertainty. Listen up, homeowners. It's a very important thing, and it's possible. People are stealing titles out there. Can you share how this is all going on?
Sure. Your listeners may have heard various commercials on the radio and on TV about home title fraud and stealing your house. And you might say, well, how can they steal my house? It's not a physical theft. It's not like stealing your car. They steal the title to your home. In other words, the rights to your home.
Yeah.
Home ownership is based upon documents, and documents are recorded in a land recording system. And over the course of the last 10 to 20 years, it started about 20 years ago, but now it's in full swing. Most of those records are online.
Yeah.
That means people anywhere in the world can immediately access your title information. Now, with additional technologies, they can go into your documents and they can literally lift your signature off of your document and place it on another document. Now, back in the day, you'd have to get the signature and then try to forge it, try to actually write it exactly the same way as the other person. And handwriting experts could tell the difference. Now they're using your actual signature.
Wow.
And what they're doing is they're creating deeds. They're using your signature. They're using a fake notary, which they also lift off another document. They drop it in and they record it. And now your property becomes their property. And they usually convey it for like $1 or $10 or something like that.
Oh my goodness. You just never think this stuff is possible. And then it happens to you. So, can you give me, I'm assuming people this has happened to who you've had to help with, right? Could you tell us about some of those?
I've been brought in on numerous cases, especially over the last 2 years. It's become very prevalent over the last 2 years. because of the development in this type of technology.
Hmm.
And 10 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to go online and get most of the records in New Jersey. Today, all 20 of the 21 counties are all online for you to go and pull information off of them. So it's really happened really in the last 10 years. And specifically in the last 2 years, this has been happening. And so it can be devastating. People, first of all, they transfer your name, your property out of your name. So now, according to the records, you don't own that property anymore. And then the real issue is they're not doing it so that they can sell it. They're doing it so that they can mortgage the property, so they can borrow money against the property. It's called equity stripping. So what they do is they go in and they strip all the equity out of the property. And now you're left with a property that A, isn't in your name, and B, is encumbered by numerous mortgages. Sometimes they'll take out 3, 4, or 5 different mortgages on the same piece of property because of glitches in the recording system. They know that they exist and they can go in, take advantage of them, and record 3 or 4 mortgages all on the same day on the same property, and nobody knows that it's happening. And next thing you know, you've got a $500,000 home with $2 million worth of mortgages on it. How do you get rid of that now?
How do you? And how
Well,
can you?
you
And
have to
how do we
prove
protect ourselves?
that you have to prove that it's a fraud, first of all
Okay.
right? And that's not going to be that difficult to do because, of course, uh, every document has to be what they call acknowledged. In other words, when you sign a document, you have to appear before a notary and say, yes, I was the person who signed this document.
Hmm.
So all you have to do is find the notary who notarized that document and bring them in and say, did this person ever appear before you? And of course, they're going to say no. They're going to say, I never notarized this document because it's a fake notary.
So
If you
they
can
even
even,
copy the notary's signature and
right,
ink
exactly.
stamp. Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
but you're going to have to go to court for that.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go to court. It's going to cost you at least $10,000. You're going to have to go and try to get the property moved back into your name. In other words, what they call void the erroneous deed. And you're going to have to convince all the lenders who lent money to the bad guy that they don't have a lien on your property anymore. And they're not
Right.
going to be happy about that. All right.
Mm.
So it's not going to be easy. Now, what you've probably been hearing on the radio and on the television is commercials for these companies that say, "Hey, we can lock your title." This is a really and they're correct in that this is a nefarious situation, and there's bad people out there doing this. I've just worked on some properties in Washington, D.C. I've worked on properties here in New Jersey and in Pennsylvania. So it's not just a local problem. It's not just happening here in New Jersey or New York. It's happening everywhere. And So what happens is they go and say, well, we're going to lock your title. And really not what they're not locking your title. You cannot lock your title. It's impossible. It's an open public
Huh.
record system that everybody has access to.
Okay.
So you could lock, for instance, you could lock your credit. You could call up the 3 credit companies, the credit reporting companies, and say, I want to lock my credit. And what that means is nobody will be able to do a credit check on you. The problem is nobody can do a credit check on you, right? If you want to borrow
Yeah.
money, you want to buy a car, then you got to go back in and unlock your
Oh my
credit
goodness.
and
Oh
then
my
relock
goodness.
it again and back and forth. You can't do that with land records. So what they offer these folks is a notification service.
Okay.
And the notification service lets you know that somebody is tampering with your property title. The problem is, guess what? They tell you after it happens. It's like calling the police when somebody's broken into your house. They show up after somebody's broken in your house and stole your stuff and ran away.
Wow.
They don't sit on your front porch and stop people from coming in your house.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with this. These companies, these services do not stop people from stealing your title. There is no way to stop them from stealing your title, ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
What you can do is find out immediately afterwards or immediately when it happens. Now, in New Jersey, a good amount of the county clerk's offices have installed what they call property fraud alert.
Okay.
Property fraud alert. And wherever you live, I would go to the county clerk's website and I would check and see if they offer the property fraud alert. And it's completely free, cost you nothing. Whereas these other companies on that you're hearing on online and on the news and everything, they charge about $20 a month for the
Okay.
same service. You're best to go and look and see if your county offers this type of service for free. And what you do is you put in your name, you put in your address, and you put in your email. And because of computers, this is where technology helps us. The moment that a document is recorded with your name on it, an email immediately goes to you and says, hey, somebody just recorded a document. And now you can take action immediately. Usually what happens is it takes months
Mm-hmm.
for you to find out. And by then, the bad guy is long gone.
Yeah,
He's
for sure.
and he's out of there. So that is a benefit that you get from that. The other thing is that you can get a particular type of title insurance. It's called enhanced title insurance
Okay.
that will cover you in these instances. Title insurance usually goes backwards. What I mean by that is when you get your title policy, it protects you from everything from today backwards, things that might happen in the past that might be wrong with your title. After you acquire the title, anything
Mm-hmm.
going forward is on you. That's your
Okay.
responsibility. You don't get insurance for that. However, they have created this relatively new product called the enhanced title policy, and it does give you some protection for post-closing fraud, what they call post-closing fraud. All right. So, what are the lessons from this? Well, first of all, the lesson is you have to guard your privacy. The more information that the bad guy knows about you, the better, and he's going to be able to steal your information, okay, and steal your title. If he wants to pretend to be you, somewhere down the line, people are going to be asking questions, right? When he goes to sell that property to himself or to an LLC that he's created, somebody's going to be asking questions. He needs to be able to answer those questions. So what you don't want is to give him the answers, right? That means be careful what you're posting on the internet. I mean, it's great. We all love social media, but you can be a little too chatty sometimes, right? I know people who post pretty much every single thing they do, and it's they put themselves at risk. You have to think about what you're putting out there, the kind of information you're putting out there, and look at it carefully and say, do I really want everybody in the world to know this? That's the first thing you can do to protect yourself. The other thing, of course, is to make sure that that if you do have property fraud alert in your county, that you go and sign up for it. Protect yourself so you get that notification. The other thing is, of course, don't ignore it. Don't give information out to people who call you on the phone. I've gotten calls, and even if they're legitimate, if they're asking you for personal information, you say, I'm not going to give you that information over the phone. All right. I need to know that you are an actual person that that I can trust. There's a guy, I'm not going to mention his name because he's a thief, but he just finished spending 12 years in jail for stealing over 100 properties, mostly in Florida, but in North Carolina, and that sort of thing. He just got out of jail, and now he's got a podcast, and he wrote a book, and he's actually making money off of the bad stuff he did to all these people. It's amazing.
So many people do that. I just
Yeah,
saw something on Netflix. I'm sorry, it was on the other night. But these teenagers who burglarized all these celebrities like Paris Hilton in their house, they went to jail. Now they have this whole documentary, and it's like cool to like break in and show undercover footage of them when they broke in and stole stuff from people. But
yeah,
this is
yeah.
society. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's exactly the point. So ultimately, you have to be careful out there. We live in what I call the 21st century is the information century. You know, the 20th century was the transportation century, right? We started off riding horses in 1900, and we went to Mars by the end of the 20th century. And before that was the industrial century, right? We started off by cutting our own hay with a sieve, and by the end we had machines that cut hay, and we had, you know, all sorts of railroads and steamships and things like that. And so this century is the information century, and that's what people want. They want to steal your information. You have to consider it a commodity like any other commodity, like the cash in your bless
Excuse
you.
me. Thank you. I muted it in time. Sorry.
The cash in your pocket or the money in your bank, and it's a lot easier. The wire fraud is a big issue now. When you go to a closing, you got to make sure that you're giving your wiring information to the proper individual. If you put it in an email, as soon as you put it in an email, anybody can steal it. And they're stealing billions of dollars in wire fraud every single year. And people just send the information out like, here's my bank account number, here's my PIN number, and they'll put it in an email. You can't do that. We live in this period of time where your information, your privacy is sacred, and you have to be the one who takes care of that. It's not anybody else's responsibility. So in this particular case, with this home title fraud, it's going to be your responsibility to keep an eye on things. If you're not going to sign up for, or if your county doesn't offer a property fraud alert, you might consider signing up for one of these online programs. I know you're probably all familiar with LifeLock. They just added
Yep.
to their
Mhm.
to their thing. They just added a property fraud alert system. So with all the other things you get from them, you now get this property fraud alert. And if I were to recommend any particular one that you had to pay for, I'd probably recommend LifeLock because you get an entire list of protections, not just for your property, but for your personal info. And I'm not a shill for LifeLock, but I'm just saying if you're going to pick one, I would look in that direction, check that out. But you have to be in charge of your own privacy and your own information, because there's people out there who want to steal it, and they're working night and day. They're working across the world, and they do it every day. And they're trying to get into your life and steal what you have. I'm not trying to frighten people, but I'm trying to wake them up to the fact that we live in a whole different world now. Think of this. Google, right? You use Google every day, right? It's only 25 years old, 1998. Before that, we didn't have Google. What do we do with Google now? I mean, when's the last time you opened up an encyclopedia? Nobody does that. You all go to Google, and we think Google is God. But the bottom line is, when we open the Google box, we open Pandora's box, right? We released all of our information to the world. And we really have to be diligent. It's really, really important.
And remind us how we can reach you. We still have 8 minutes left, but we've
Sure.
been on a roll. Go ahead.
Which could GICENJ.com or forensictitleexpert.com.
Perfect. And in regards to the conversation of today, if you are just tuning in as a title expert, and we're talking here about the potential fraud that could happen to you with your title being stolen, let alone your identity, what can we do to start protecting ourselves? Anything else? And by the way, you would think, title insurance, does that doesn't help you having title insurance?
Right. And you think you would, but as with all insurances, title insurance is not a panacea. It doesn't cure all ills. I mean, your life insurance policy only covers certain things, your health insurance policy, we all know that, right? How many times do we go and get our prescriptions turned down because they're not the right prescription, or they need to take a generic drug or something like that? It's the same thing. So not everything is protected by insurance. Insurance is a process of laying off your risk. We all have risks every day in life, and we have to manage those risks. And one of the ways we do that is lay off some of that risk to other entities, other insurance companies, things of that nature. And we do that with title insurance, but we can't lay it all off. Okay, you have to accept some responsibility for yourself and do your own work. And that's why you have to go and look into the availability of this title fraud protection, property fraud alert. Go there first, go to your county clerk, check that out. And then after that, you can go and look online and see what other products are available, like LifeLock, and see if that's something you're interested in. At the end of the day, you have to start thinking that way. For instance, on my phone, on this thing here, right? I use a VPN, a virtual private network. It's called lookout.com, and there's lots of them out there.
Okay.
And what it does is it protects me from the hackers. They can't come directly to me. They have to come through a server, a separate server that looks like it's in Moscow or Brazil or some other place.
Yeah.
It's $3 a month. $3 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it worth spending that much money to protect your privacy? We spend a lot more
Cup
on
of
coffee.
coffee. Come on, you go to Starbucks, and now it's at least $4 for like a small. I was
That's
like,
right. That's right.
yeah.
Yeah. So these are things you have to start to think about and
Mm-hmm.
think differently about your exposure to the world.
Yeah.
Uh, 25 years ago, VPNs didn't exist and you wouldn't need one.
Yeah.
Today, you need one.
Wow.
Today, you need title fraud protection. So you
Huh.
have to look into that.
I mean, and this is the amount of expense that would come out of your pocket. Like you mentioned before, the attorney's fees, the time, I mean, we're talking people are, how much debt are you talking about after this happens? If you're trying to get everything back now, like what, 30, $40,000?
Right, right. Plus, and you'll appreciate this, the agita, right?
Ah, the angst, the stress, yes.
Yeah. It tears your life apart. I've dealt with these people. I've been involved in helping them
Mhm.
out as an expert, and it's gut wrenching. It turns their life upside down, and something they're not going to get over very soon. And the problem is the day after it's over, the day after it's fixed, somebody else could come and attack you again. You're not safe from this. It's not like you can build a wall and keep people out forever. You have to be vigilant. You have to be diligent, and you have to understand the world that we live in today.
Yeah. Wow. Really opening our eyes to so much. And you've taught me so much, and hopefully our listeners as well. But also, just before we go, just also talk about some of the other things that you can help people with, if you don't mind, before we sum up for today.
Yeah, sure. Like I said, I first of all, I teach. I teach realtors and attorneys and title producers a variety of subjects involved with the real property law. I also teach cybersecurity, which is a lot of what we're talking about here in different places. Getting the right password. I'll give you a tip here right now.
Sure.
Passwords, real simple. Think of your favorite song. Think of a verse from that song. Like, say you're a Bruce Springsteen fan, right? and you like Born to Run, Tramps Like Us. So that's going to be your password, Tramps Like Us. You're going to put a symbol in front of
Numbers,
it.
character. Oh, in front of it, even.
Like yeah, like a camera. So I say like $, Tramps Like Us, 693. Get a number at the end there, or we can switch them. It doesn't matter. So really, all you have to remember is the symbol and the number. You know, Tramps Like Us. You're never going to forget Tramps Like Us. And then what you do is you capitalize a couple of letters in Tramps Like Us.
Got it.
Okay. And now all of a sudden you have a password.
Ironclad password.
Yes.
Not our names, not our birth dates, not our pets' names. Done them all. I'm guilty, but yeah.
None of that stuff. Okay. And it's going to take somebody 720,000 years to crack that password. Has to be at least 11 characters. At least 11 characters. Okay.
Thanks.
So I do that, and then of course, I help people with their issues, whether it be a neighbor who's encroaching onto their property, or someone who's trying to use an easement across their property, or their property dimensions aren't what they think they are because of a surveying error. Working on one right now where there's a wall in the back of the property and they're trying to decide who owns the wall. The reason is the wall needs to be fixed, and it's going to cost $1 million to fix the wall.
Oh my goodness.
And so it matters who owns the wall. All right. So it's a wall on a river. So that's why it costs so much to fix it. It's a retaining wall.
Wow.
So this is the type of stuff that I do. I do it every day. I enjoy doing it. And, I bring my 4 decades of experience to bear on these questions and try to help folks out.
Well, thank you so much. And Joe, tell us again one more time how we can reach you, please.
GICENJ.com and ForensicTitleExpert.com.
Perfect. Thanks again. Great topic as
All right,
always.
take
And
care.
you have a fantastic day. And we will talk next week, I'm sure. Enjoy your week. Enjoy the weather for today.
Right.
Bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.